Good evening and welcome to African Hour. African Hour has been on the air since 2000, and tonight's African Hour we have a special guest, our own city manager, Mr. Tom Golden, who's been our state rep and serve us at the state level, and he's come back to serve us in Lowell. I would like, first of all, to thank you very much, sir, for nurturing the transatlantic relationship between City of Lowell and Bamenda, and also paying tribute to King Angwafo III of Mancon, who is an honorary a member of the City Council, and last Thursday. So I think it's befitting that you really embody that diversity community, that you reach out and build bridges. So thank you very much. But before I go further, I would like also to share with my viewers the plaque that you presented to the people of Cameroon, the African community here in Lowell, in paying a tribute to King Angwafo and also celebrating the sister city relationship between Bamenda in Cameroon and the city of Lowell. In memory of His Royal Highness King Angwafo III SAN, an honorary member of Lowell City Council, in recognition of the sister city relationship between the city of Lowell and the city of Bamenda, established by vote of the City Council November 5th, 2002. So thank you very much. And
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. I mean, it's been a sister city. We've been friends. And it was very important, and I was very happy that you brought that to my attention about the King. And the King will forever be in our hearts, as you know. And the sister city is something that's extremely important. And our current mayor, Mayor Sakari Chow, has made that one of his challenges to make sure that all of our sister cities, and I know that he just came back from Greece, so I'm quite confident that the strengthening of our sister city relationship will continue under this current mayor and this current city council.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I had to send out questions. I solicit questions to the community because I told them that I was coming to interview you, and most of them were very anxious to ask you a lot of questions. But to kick off, I would like to say, sir, could you describe a typical day for a city manager, and how can you engage and encourage the youths of Lowell to volunteer services?
Well, I think a typical day, the best part about being city manager is there is no typical day. Typically, my day starts at 6 o'clock, get my daughter up, my wife leaves for work. My other daughter, I have two daughters, Abigail and Lillian. Abigail is already in school at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, nursing program. And my junior, I still have a junior that I have to wake up, make sure that she gets out of bed, gets in the car, and we get her to school. So then really it starts with emails and correspondence. Most of the people that work for me know that if I need them right away, I'll text them. I try not to text before 7 a.m., but emails can come out pretty much at any time. And anywhere between 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., depending, for the typical day, I'm either in the office or traveling around the city to meet with somebody or talk with somebody, typically over coffee, to find out what the concerns and needs are. And pretty much from 9 o'clock till done, we're at City Hall. So, and then on Tuesday nights, obviously there for the city council meetings. But a lot of meetings, a lot of decisions are made day in and day out. You make so many decisions throughout the day, but I have a great team. We have so many wonderful department heads that it just doesn't matter. Those department heads are here to serve the residents of Lowell and to serve them in the capacity that that they deserve to be served. Everyone is working hard every single day. We make sure of that. But a typical day, Fru, I don't know if I could tell you what that typical day is because, unfortunately, just last week, we had a 12-inch main break for water, and the Lowell Housing Authority, as well as 4 other single-family homes in the city, were affected. So that was all hands on deck, and that really changed up our plans for the afternoon. But all hands on deck, everybody was there, everybody is safe, everybody has a warm home, plenty of food to eat, and we are in the process of putting that together. But a typical day is just busy, 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 but you have to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, I always say, why do it? I try to teach my children that. If you don't love your job, I'm ear to ear. This is like every single day is a Super Bowl. I get to show up in the city that I love, the city that I've grown up in, the city that I served in the state legislature for 28 years, to come back here and just simply try to make a difference. The difference between being a legislator is you're always asking, may I do this? Can I do this? How can I do this? And being a city manager and working with the city council hand in glove, we get things done. We can make things happen. We can clean the streets and so many other things.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for what you do to advance our city. And in your answer, you sort of open it up for my next question, which is about affordable housing, drug use, and city employee reward. So a question here is that how are you doing with regards to affordable housing here in Lowell, and how will you prevent the homeless from freezing to death this winter?
Right now, we're working. Let me take homelessness on. That is something that we have a standing meeting every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Matter of fact, sometimes it's 1 to 2 to 3 on homelessness. We have partners that we've been working with, some of the nonprofits throughout the city of Lowell. Community Teamwork comes to mind. Lowell Transitional Center, which is downtown on Middlesex Street, comes to mind. So many of these organizations, and I shouldn't have mentioned 2 because there are many, many more, that are consistently giving back to the city and trying to make sure that our homeless are well taken care of. But our winter protocol is getting into place where, once again, if it gets too cold, we're going to actively go out to the encampments to invite people in to make sure that they have, once again, a warm roof over their head and something to eat. We do know that a lot of the experience is through mental health and some of it's substance abuse. My hope is that in 2023, we have a lot of things going on where we're really starting to ramp up the hiring practices in the city. We now have a homeless coordinator, which we hadn't had for some time. So Ms. Fitzpatrick is somebody who has worked within the homeless community, but we have Lisa Golden over in the health department. And they're really bringing our private partners together, all of our non-government entities, if you would, or the nonprofits throughout the city of Lowell, that are all starting to row in the same direction. I think that's kind of difficult sometimes because everyone feels as though I can do it better than others. But what we're trying to really get behind is that we're all rowing in the same direction to make sure that nobody is cold and nobody is hungry. It's a tough job, but I think we have a team in place that really is going to make a dent in it this year. And that is a major challenge, not just here in the city of Lowell. It's a challenge from coast to coast. I think that if you pick up any newspaper, you can see where people are really experiencing the homelessness issue, and we're starting to see homeless not just. I'm glad we're not referring to those folks over there. We should never refer to people because, as I was talking to a group of people, I was down with LTLC that just opened up a magnificent 21-unit. Apartment building, and we talked about ladders, right? Some of us are fortunate to be climbing on a ladder. Some of us were helped onto the ladder. Others kind of climbed through a broken ladder and still were helpful. You know, we got there. But some of our friends who have that mental health and substance abuse and homeless issue, they've fallen off that ladder. You know, the ladder of life. Where are we, right? Are we just in the beginning? Are we ready to retire? Are we at the top? But some of our friends and some of our family members, and that's what I think we have to look at. They're friends, they're family members, they're our brothers, they're our sisters. We're going to help them get back on that ladder of life, if you would, because they've fallen off of it. It's a challenge. It's something that I've worked on in the legislature for quite some time with mental health and substance abuse. And it's going to be a challenge, but I really believe by meeting, talking, and putting together action items, which we have been doing, we're going to make a difference. We're reaching out to so many different partners. I wish we could talk about this for the whole hour, and we really could. And it really deserves it because, once again, when people look at these individuals not as those folks who are homeless over there, and we start thinking about they're our brothers, they're our sisters, that's someone's mom or dad or sister or brother, I think you have a little bit more empathy. You can empathize because they're running through that tough time, and we have to be there to try to help them. And that's what we're going to continue to try to do.
Well, thank you very much. You seem to have a very powerful team that...
We do, yeah. I'm glad you said that because it's not an easy one. This is such a, if we had the solution, and if anyone ever had the solution, it would catch on like wildfire. But throughout the country, but I keep telling my team, if this is what we normally do, if this is business as usual, well, let's start breaking the eggs. Let's make that omelet. Let's make it different. How are we gonna make it different here in the city, where people throughout, not just in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but throughout our country, can start to say, hey, you know something? There's a city like Lowell. Maybe we should look at it this way. And we're going to try a bunch of different things. And like I say, we're going to be breaking eggs, and some of them are going to work and some of it won't. But the most important thing is, I think you can't be afraid to fail. If you're going to fall down, I was always taught, if you fall down 6 times, you got to get up 7. If you fall down 7 times, you have to get up 8. Because there are a lot of people out there tonight. It's brisk out, as you know. You walked here. So did I, getting in here. It's rather brisk, and there are a lot of people out there that need our help.
That's very true, Mr. Manager. I believe one old man said that if you have to fall down, make sure you fall on your back. Because as you can see the blue sky, you will get up.
You'll get up.
So, well, you talked about the team, and which makes me now to follow up with this question. This team, they are working very hard to serve us here in Lowell and provide the services that make Lowell what it is. There's so much to love about Lowell because of the team that you mentioned. What rewards for excellence can the city employee expect from your administration?
The excellence. We've been talking about this. It's always nice. What I've tried to do is really take a one-on-one approach. Most of the employees, I think, have seen me walk into an office. I often try to, hey, have a great week, hey, have a great weekend, but to be accessible and to give them the opportunity to share an idea, a back and forth of what could make it better for the residents of the city. But one of the folks had come to me just the other day and said, maybe we should give some type of incentive. If somebody sees something, if they have an idea, if they think this is something that could not just save the city money. This isn't about saving money, although it's always good to save money. But it's about making the quality of life better for the 115,000 plus residents here in the city. So we have been talking about maybe putting some type of incentive program just for an idea program. But being accessible, being out and talking with all the employees as well as the residents about what idea, what do you have going on? What do you see? I'm in the process. I'm going to be hopefully meeting with some of the men and women that plow our streets, in the winter months. I'd like to ask them, what do you think we need? It's always nice, and we have some really great commissioners and assistant and people that are at the top that I see on a very, very regular basis. But I think it's important, and I've been over to what we call the barns, or what I call the barns, is where all the men and women go before their day starts. I try to get over there, say hello, have a coffee with them. I'm due to go back just to pop in, and I want to make it a more regular basis where employees feel comfortable to say, hey, Tom, what's going on? Hey, I have an idea. I want to make it that ability where sometimes I've learned throughout my experience that people will not approach you as a state legislator or a state representative. They won't approach you unless they see you out having a cup of coffee. And I think that's the most important thing, is to go where the employees are, because employees are very, very willing to give their experience and their time and their ideas if you just simply ask them. And many, believe me, many have said to me, how about this, how about that? But be prepared for a little push-pull. When I turn around and say, well, we've tried this, but how about that? You know, we can't always just talk about the problems that we have in the city. What is actually the solution? If we're talking about traffic, well, if we're having traffic issues, you know, how many vehicles are in your family? Who's ready to, you know, to step out first and say, we're going to give up vehicles? I don't know of many people through that will do that. But, you know, instead of looking at the glass half empty, I think I was always brought up, and I always try to convey, the glass is half full. How do we make it better tomorrow? And that goes with homelessness. It goes with city services. It goes with just continuing to stay as positive as you can. And you'll have your setbacks. There's no question about it, you and I. But we're old enough to know that you have your setbacks, but you just got to keep moving forward in a positive manner.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. One thing that personally I said I like about you is that you have an open door policy. When I walked into your office to schedule this interview, I was quite impressed that you motivated me a lot. And you said, let me know, meet Doreen, my secretary, and schedule. So that...
Doreen's the boss. She's the city manager sometimes.
So, that action of yours encouraged me, you know, to feel that at least the city manager is someone who is willing to listen and hear from others. So thank you so very much.
No, I appreciate you coming in. I really do, because that's how I learn. You know, people ask all the time, how do you learn? I learn from talking to people. And if you ever ask my wife or my kids, we've invited people to sit down with us. I'll tell you a quick funny story. I know it. I was on one of my first dates with my wife, well, a girlfriend at the time that ended up becoming my wife, and someone came over and started describing something, and they sat down and started telling me about a problem. And I had said to my girlfriend, well, the date I was on, who ended up being my girlfriend, who ended up being my wife, I said, yeah, this sometimes happens. So she knew exactly, my wife Joan knew exactly what she was getting into from day one. And, you know, I got to be honest with you, I still wonder why she said yes.
Well, sir, I have another question here.
Yes.
It's about drugs in the city. Is fentanyl a problem in Lowell and the suburbs? And if so, what have you done to tackle the problem?
Well, just recently, if you read in the paper, we just had a major bust, which I'm very proud of the members of the Lowell Police Department. The members of Lowell Police Department, Massachusetts State Police, the United States Drug Enforcement Agency, they were all here in the city just a short time ago. Some people would think that that was a negative. That's a very much of a positive. What we interrupted with fentanyl and barbiturates, drugs, money, and guns and weapons, to the tune of approximately, I hope I get this right, there was approximately, they believe it was 250 kilos of cocaine. And now what the purity of that level, that's still out. This just happened. So it was 250 over the year. So that's 5 kilos a week that were somehow coming up through the eastern seaboard. There are other states involved. There are other cities and towns in Massachusetts. And quite frankly, and I forgot to mention the great work by the New Hampshire police departments. So there was a great work and great discussion about really stemming the tide. Our police department is they're professional. They know they're held to a higher standard, and there's just no question about that. They will be held to a higher standard. They live to that highest standard, and that is what is expected. And that's why I have so much support for them, because they really do step up. And what they did just just last week, I think, the beginning of this week, is nothing less than heroic, because what they're doing is they are protecting not just us from any type of gun violence or anything to that matter, but they're protecting the people we were talking about earlier and the homeless situation. Now, not all homeless people are addicted to things. Sometimes it's a mental health issue, and not everyone that has a mental health issue has a drug problem. That is not the case. But there's a high instance when, drugs are a problem, and it leads to homelessness and everything else. So I would like to think in the past 7 months, I've had the ability to support the Lowell Police Department in the excellent work and the professionalism that they've given to this community. And quite frankly, I wish all the bad guys and gals were watching this, because this isn't going to stop. We're not going to allow this to happen. We've been chasing this stuff as a city, as a country, for as long as I can remember. But it doesn't need to be welcomed. And I really, truly believe that we have to make it as unwelcoming to deal drugs, to destroy people's lives here in the city of Lowell as much as we can. And I think our professionals have been doing that.
Thank you very much, sir. If you are just tuning on, you're watching African Hour coming to you from Lowell Telemedia, and our special guest tonight is Lowell City Manager, Mr. Tom Golden. We will now segue into another topic. Lowell is, in my words, I would say the United Nation of City, because if you really want to travel around the world in 7 days and visit all the 7 continents, come and spend 7 days in Lowell. You would have seen someone from the continents of the world. You would have tested food or seen a dressing from somewhere.
I don't need to test any more food. And you know that. I can eat.
So, in 1999, Lowell won the All-American City, and it's because of our diversity. We have the African Festival, the Water Festival, the Puerto Rican Festival, all the festival, and climbing up to the big one, the Folk Festival. So, sir, in a diverse municipality as Lowell, how do you ensure that municipal services are delivered equitably to all parts of the community?
That's always something that I've thought about. As a legislator, dealing with in Centerville, Pawtuckaville, downtown, in Chelmsford, I also represented Chelmsford. Making sure services that everyone got what they deserved, I didn't necessarily always see it. And sometimes I do, and I do understand what people are saying because I'm willing to learn about it. And throughout the city, I think that the city has done a good job at making sure services are given to each part of the city. But I'll tell you, something just happened, and this is just this past election, and that's with the 8 district councilors and the 3 at-large councilors. And I will tell you that the at-large councilors do a fabulous job. They really do. They care about each section of the city. But when you start to drive down or dive into one section of the city, as a former state rep, just in Lowell, I had Centerville and Pawtuckaville. Well, now Centerville and Pawtuckaville has 2 leaders. They have Corey Robinson and they have Dan Rourke, right? And those 2 individuals work at the team as a whole. And I could go right around the city and name off all the 11 councilors. I'm just kind of going back to, in my experience as a state representative, I represented both those districts. Now, ensuring that equity is delivered throughout the city, those councilors, like Councilor Scott and Councilor Gitcha, I'm going to get myself in trouble, Councilor Janess, Councilor Leahy, Councilor Yem, our mayor, Sakari Chow, and Councilor Noon. Well, he's citywide, but Councilor Drinkwater and Councilor Mercier. I'm going to get myself in trouble, but they're all paying attention. I think when we had 9 at-large councilors, sure, they were all over the place, but now you have 8 councilors that are hyper-focused, in a good way, hyper-focused on from the beginning of their district to the end of their district and everything in between. Now, the interesting thing is those counselors are not just hyper-focused, I should say. They may be hyper-focused just in their area, but I've seen this, and you can see how when they co-generate motions together, that they may very well jump on a motion from somebody else from another part of the city because they think it's a good idea, or maybe with one of the at-large councilors who is throughout the city of Lowell. So making sure that services are delivered equitable. I think we've always tried to do it. I really do. I think the city of Lowell is always trying to put their best foot forward from the beginning of when I started to serve the city of Lowell. But now it is still happening. It really is happening because of the district councilors and the assistance of the at-large councilors. I think it's a great mix. I really do. There were a lot of concerns with delivering the equity throughout the city of Lowell as a whole, and I think those concerns possibly could diminish to zero over time.
Staying on that topic, I would like to follow up with this. Please, sir, explain how you have demonstrated commitment to and include any accomplished records of anti-racism, equity, inclusion, and diversity in organizations you have managed.
Up in the State House, we're always trying to get, well, I have to go back if we're talking about the past. Being in the State House, I was very proud to be the state representative or the chairman of a particular, you could pick any one of the committees that I was chair of, that I always had a diverse staff of men, of women, of people in BIPOC community, people that are just of different backgrounds, people from different countries. I have had an opportunity. So I've always embraced it, but once again, being here in the city of Lowell, growing up in the city of Lowell, we're a very diverse community as it is. Even as I was growing up, I was born in 71. And I don't think you really recognize it sometimes when your best friends are a different culture, different race. It doesn't, your best friends and the pals you hang around with, you don't think of it that way. So I think we're fortunate here in the city of Lowell, but as a city manager, I'm proud to say that we have started DEI training. I'm proud to say that I was in the first, what we're calling cohorts or sections of DEI. Middlesex Community College has one of the renowned diversity, equity, and inclusion classes that they put together. And it was an 8-week class, and it's 101. I like to say this. It's DEI 101, because although the 8 classes that we took, there were 15 of us, I believe, 14 maybe, in the first section. We took 8 classes. That is just the beginning of our studies, if you would, to continue to learn about diversity, about equity, and about inclusion, and about what people are feeling. It's not always how you view it. I think that's one of the big pieces. It's not how you view it, it's how other people are viewing those comments or actions. But from the city's perspective, we have our second consortium starting. We're very happy about that. And my hope is, just by working throughout the city, now this is on the city side, my hope is that by the beginning of July 1st of this year, every single one of our employees will have had some DEI instruction or classes. Now, people start late, that might get a little messy, but we're trying to make sure that everybody understands that not everybody, I mentioned the ladder piece here earlier, and I think it's important. Not everybody has a perfect ladder with all the footings, with all the rungs. Some folks have broken rungs, and some folks, quite frankly, their ladder starts in a hole, and they're climbing out of something to get to something. So I think that this administration, we've taken it very serious. We'll continue to take it serious. This is not a one-off. We want to make sure that we are inclusive. We provide equity and diversity to our entire community. And we're trying to do that right now with our job selections to make sure that everybody knows that if there's a job available, they can apply. Everybody should be able to apply or feel welcomed to apply.
Well, thank you very much. That brings to mind what King Anwafo said when he visited the State House. He said that all leaders are students. I'm glad that you attended those classes because
be my last.
you lead by example. So thank you for that. Now let's move now to development and infrastructure in Lowell. Sir, the Rock Bridge replacement seems to be in a stall, and yet more and more people are moving to Draycote and New Hampshire. Are we on track to get the new bridge and ease the flow of commuter traffic through Lowell?
Yes. I'm very happy to say that, and a big thank you to United States Congresswoman Laurie Trahan. She's really been one of the main drivers here. A lot of this is federal money coming into the state, but it is moving forward. I mean, Councilor O'Rourke with NEMCOG and so many of the other councilors. I mean, and Representative Roddy Mom from the State House. You could really thank a lot of people for this. The first thing I want to get to is the Rourke Bridge is safe. I'm not a bridge engineer, okay? But I hear this all the time. I'm nervous about it. It doesn't make me feel safe. I've talked to Mass DOT on multiple times, multiple occasions, and they talk about how safe the Rourke Bridge is. If it's moving, because it's supposed to move. Not being a civil engineer or a bridge engineer, I'm going to leave that to the experts, but a lot of people are concerned about it. No need to be concerned. The professionals are very happy with the way it's performing. Now, that being said, in 2024, we're hoping the alignment has been chosen. People should know that. It was the third choice, and that third choice was Wood Street, and it's going to line up with Old Ferry Road. If Old Ferry Road's not ringing a bell, look towards the new Market Basket over on Pawtucket Boulevard, and that's right, and look to your left. And that's going to help that area, I think, immensely. I'm very excited about it. But in 2024, they're moving the time frame. Things are moving quicker than we anticipated. Now, is it going to be, 30 months, 36 months? I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay a little soft on that fruit, to be honest with you, because I'm a little concerned knowing about the Central Street Bridge and some of the steel and everything else. But the best part about this is we should take away from this conversation. One, the Rourke Bridge is safe. Two, 2024 is right around the corner. It is on the tip list. And three, this is going to be happening. It's going to be happening, and I'm very happy to say in my lifetime. And as one of the young engineers told me, he said to me, this will be a bridge for the rest of your life. And I said, wow, thanks a lot.
Well, Mr. Manager, the people are here and they will hold you to your words.
Well, they're gonna hold me to it if you don't want me building it. But I'm telling you, I feel very, very confident that we're in a good spot, not only for the Central Street Bridge downtown, which has been a challenge for our downtown residents, but also for the Rourke Bridge.
Is MBTA really thinking of extending the real commuter train to Nashua? Has anyone suggested no buses fare as a way to encourage the use of buses?
Well, throughout the month of December, Dave Bradley, who is the executive director of the LRTA, that's the Lowell Regional Transit Authority, he just made an announcement. And Dave, if you don't know him, you can call him and talk to him. So easy. Such an easy guy to talk to. But the LRTA buses in December are free. They're trying to encourage people. I know that the mayor and some of the city councilors took a ride throughout downtown, and I think a couple of them actually went back and forth from home on it just to try it out. I've heard good reports. I got to be honest, as of today, I have not done it yet. I will, though. I'll make sure that happens. I committed to Mr. Bradley over at the LRTA that I would make that happen. So they are free for the month of December. Special thanks to Massachusetts legislature for doing that. So that's happening right now. And the second part of your question was, we had transportation.
Is MBTA really thinking of extending the commuter rail to Nashua?
There's a friend of mine, Bill Gillette. He lives in North Chelmsford, and I met him through becoming a state representative out there. And Bill has been pushing this for quite some time. He believes that extending it from the Lowell line into Chelmsford, they'd love to see it. Some people wouldn't. So into North Chelmsford, into New Hampshire, into Nashua. I've heard it talked about a lot. That's definitely going to be something from the federal government standpoint. They would have to come in heavy onto that, from interstate. I know I had run into the Nashua mayor. We had briefly talked. I met him at the time. with my cousin, who happens to be the chief of police up in Nashua. So Kevin Rourke, actually a Lowell guy, great pitcher for UMass Lowell, great pitcher for Lowell High in the early 90s. But they talked about that. And even I know at the time the mayor was very interested in seeing that happen. But that is definitely above my pay grade. I know that people have talked about it, but that'd be a financial situation that I think would be the federal government the only one that would have the ability to come in and say, let's create something up northern for ourselves, which I think would be a good idea.
Okay, staying. I still have one last question on this topic: development and infrastructure. Is anyone developing an overall plan for our eventual conversion from gas power to electric powered private vehicles, like having sufficient charging station, reorienting emergency services to out of juice rather than out of gas? Again, these are questions that came from the community to ask the city manager.
Well, thankfully, I spent 7 years as the chairman of Telecommunication, Utility, and Energy. This would be a rather difficult one. I'm very bullish on electric vehicles, although I think electric vehicles are going to take some time to get here. Why is that the case? It's just simply the case, not to get too technical on it, but if, say, a street like my street, if every one of us, 7 houses is a small side street, if every one of us decided to get an electric vehicle and charge them at the same time, the infrastructure would suffer. The infrastructure may not be able to actually handle it. Not an electrician, but hanging around with most of these guys a lot, we might trip the cradles, and the cradles being in the electric jargon there. But I believe that the legislature has set a lofty goal. I think that the United States government has set a lofty goal. We are going to have to get there one way or the other. When will that happen? Will we meet those goals? I think it's really going to be dependent on the infrastructure. Can the infrastructure handle the surge? That's really the question. We really have vehicles of tomorrow, electric vehicles from gas, which, by the way, if anybody hasn't driven an electric vehicle, they have a lot of free drives for these things. Heritage Ice Cream runs one once a year with people in the area. And I'll tell you right now, they're not what you think they are. They're a lot quicker than you'd think, and they have a lot of power on them. However, there is a little bit of angst or anxiety overall of, is the infrastructure in place to charge me up? Most of us right now are used to pulling over at the gas station, taking, I don't time it, 3 minutes or 4 minutes or so, in and out, you're off and running. It takes a little bit longer with electric vehicles. It takes a little bit more planning. And that's where I think the anxiety starts to come in. But as far as the quality of the vehicle, I think quite frankly, the electric vehicles are much, much nicer, in my opinion. But I think it's going to have to come, once again, from the state government to come down and update the infrastructure of our lines, the lines that you see out in front of your home, and also our transmission lines. The distribution lines need to be updated as well. But we are looking to, I know at least in the city now, the city council is really taking a firm approach that every vehicle we buy, that needs to be economically driven. So environmentally driven, I apologize. In the environmentally driven, one of the cars, the car that I have, it shuts itself off. It has that eco section in it. And most of the vehicles, and I say most because not all, most of the vehicles we will be purchasing will be of by nature. So hoping that we'll be able to use the gas or electric back and forth. So that's kind of where the hybrid back and forth is what we're going to be using. But some of the vehicles I don't believe are ready for that. Some of our larger, unfortunate diesel vehicles. Not saying it can't be done, because someone's going to listen and say it can be done. Not saying it can't be done. Can it be done here in the city of Lowell at this time? And I think that it's incumbent upon us to start moving everything that we can towards that type of fuel, towards a more fuel efficient, either more fuel efficient vehicles, or B, a hybrid, or C, just complete electric.
Okay, thank you very much. I think a lot can be done here in Lowell. And that gives me an opportunity now to segue in something which it is very, very personal to me, and which is we're talking about opportunities for Lowell resident. On a personal note, my son, Anyentara Lankimbe, made his first film, The Family Feud, here in Lowell. And it premiered at the cinema last week. Is there an industry? Is this an industry that we could provide a home for?
We do. Massachusetts does right now. Here in the city of Lowell, Massachusetts has a film tax credit that a lot will say is too generous. But I've supported it as a legislator, and I support it today as a city manager, because I think that when you have folks that have that ability to make us laugh, make us cry, make us wonder, make us think on film, that is something that we should cherish and hold on to. Massachusetts, and I say that because I've been out to the old Fort Devens, then they call it Devens, right? But the old Devens studio, I've been out there a couple of times, and it's absolutely fascinating to see the number of jobs, the number of professionals that work out there, but really the thinkers behind these things are just like your son. It's absolutely fascinating to me how you can create a film or create a monologue or a dialogue or some type of show. So I think we need to capture that. I'm a big fan of the MRT as well, and I think of the arts and I think of filming all in one. I know that here in the city of Lowell, we welcome filming. We unfortunately, just when I first got here, they had a film that wanted to take the downtown over for 3 nights, and we just really weren't prepared. I had just gotten here, and it was going to be in the late nights, and probably would have upset a lot of the residents, and we didn't have time to talk to them about it. But I spoke to the producer, and I said, you have an open door policy. I want you to come back here. Because at one time, as the chairman of the Convention and Business Bureau here in the city of Lowell, I remember when the fighter was here. I remember when there was, oh goodness, I'm trying to think of the first one. It was The Truth About Lying, but it ended up coming out as a different name, and I'm blanking on it as I'm sitting here looking at you. But there were two films that I can recall, actually 3. One of them, here I am blanking on the 3 films that I can distinctly recall. Grown-Ups. I think Grown-Ups was filmed out in Belvedere a little bit for a few spots. But we need to make it welcoming, and we need to see some economic spin-off development from it. But most importantly is to welcome artists and people. Now, whether it be artists that paint on a paint a wall or paint a picture, or if it's artists that strumming a guitar, or if it's artists who are putting together, like I stated, the monologue or the dialogue or a film or a video. I think that's stuff that we really can look at, because that is where it's fascinating to me that people can put a life story or a made-up story and make it flow. I'm a big fan of it. So,
Mr. Manager, to follow up on that, now that it looks like the Lowellians, the children of Lowell, are really trying to engage, be creative, and bring Lowell to the big screen. Mm-hmm. Do you have any plans that could also encourage them and push them, that the city also, they can call your office, they can call City Hall, and is that encouragement there now, or are you thinking of something like that? Maybe that's just...
That's a great idea. We don't have anything like that right now, but I'd love to, if anyone's listening right now, if anyone's talking about it, if anyone's thinking about it, my own kids can take their phone and they make videos that it's unbelievable, right? But I would encourage anyone that's listening to come give me an idea about that. I mean, we have the ability right now with some of the monies through ARPA to expand on business, to expand on small businesses. And a special thank once again to Congresswoman Laurie Trahan and the City Council for putting monies aside for things like a project you're talking about. And I think the best part about it is, what does that project look like? I don't know. But, I'm willing to sit down with somebody, because I I know how to take a picture with that camera, and that's it. As far as any of the editing, what these professionals here do at LTC, I couldn't do any of this stuff, and these guys make it look like it's second nature. So if there was a plan or an idea or how to get some creativity from our new Lowellians, our children, who are probably much better at this than most certainly me. I'd love to hear of a program or an idea or a thought process that it could spin off. That'd be a great idea.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I think this question to really...
These questions are coming in fast and furious here. Yeah, most popular guy in Lowell.
I think this one will touch almost every one of us because it speaks to the downtown Lowell. How can you bring back downtown to make it vibrant again?
Well, I think what we need to do is we have some legacy property. First of all, before I get to talk about legacy properties, first and foremost, the downtown has to be clean. And when I started with my administration, a little known piece, which I wish I would have taken some photos on, but we went back to the basics. Things needed to be painted. Light posts, bridges. And we had a lot of the folks working on weekends down here prior to the Folk Fest, making sure that everything was straightened out, signs were taken down, old signs that didn't mean anything or shouldn't have been up, which I think a lot of signs are clutter. I really do. I love signs when they show you where you're going, but boy, we have a lot of cluttered signs, which we took down. But making sure that the posts, making sure that the lights were working, making sure they were painted, that was item number one. The second one was drilling down and cleaning the streets, really drilling down and making sure that the streets were empty, making sure that we ran our street sweepers and we do it on a regular basis. I have to say I'm very proud of the DPW today, what the city looks like on any typical day. Now, if it was a rowdy Friday, Saturday night, of course, we got to get down there and clean it the next night. But on any given day, the streets are cleaner, and people are seeing that. One of the dirtier points, or the dirty, dusty point, is that Central Street Bridge, which we are working on. Once those two lanes are opened up, and that's ready to happen before the end of 23, I'm going to be very, very happy, welcoming people into the downtown. So how do we turn it around? Let's get to some of our legacy buildings. We have some buildings downtown that, quite frankly, people are sitting on their hands, and they're just waiting for what? I don't know. And then we have another group of people over at the Hildreth building that was just bought. I met with those folks. Very, very they're go-getters. They're really going to make stuff happen. We're going to have some market rate housing, which is above, if the Hildreth building's not ringing a bell, where CVS used to be, right across the street from Dunkin' Donut. Rainbow, the Rainbow store there. So everything above there will be market rate, and they're working their tail off. But the most important thing I saw with the people who purchased the Hildreth Street building, I asked them for a favor. I said, could you guys make sure that you paint the first floor for the Folk Festival and make it look nice? And you know something? They answered the call. If you drive by the Hildreth where the CVS was, you'll see that it's all been painted, it looks beautiful, and it looks nice, and it shows the commitment that somebody new is coming into the downtown. What can we do on the first floor? We're having a lot of discussions. Could we put down businesses, small businesses? Could they swing out of the 110 Canal, which is the University of Massachusetts at Lowell? Could we have an opportunity to have cultural businesses in there? And when I say small cultural businesses, could there be a small mall in that area? Could that be happening? Well, we're talking to the people that will tell us if this will work, and that's the people at the university and the people at Middlesex Community College. We're really relying on our DPD, our Department of Planning and Development, is relying on experts that will tell us if stuff like this is going to happen. But another thing just happened, just by the City Council, and they're allowing second, third, and fourth stories to be built out. They just took that vote last week, and they took the parking requirement away. At one point in time, in order to have residential in the downtown, you had to show you had a certain number of parking parking spots. Well, we have those parking spots, and those parking spots are available in the garage. So we have that opportunity. I really think that this council is hands-on. Councilor Janess, Wayne Janess, is the councilor from downtown Lowell, and he is down, once again, as I stated, he is hyper-focused. But he's got the hyper focus of the downtown, but he's got 10 other councilors that are cheering him on, pushing along and saying, let's keep doing this. I think as the downtown starts to continue to grow and evolve, I think that's going to split out into our neighborhoods. When you talk about Bridge Street, you talk about Aiken Ave, you talk about Mammoth Road, you're going to talk about Andover, you're going to talk about Middlesex, Appleton, and things of that nature. I think it's vitally important that the downtown is a hub of activity. And I really believe that Central Street Bridge, it has to get done. It is getting done. It's hampering us. There's a great restaurant over on Central Street that I've visited on a couple of occasions, and they're really getting bothered by that. But the second thing is, or the last thing I would touch upon, are the legacy buildings. We have legacy buildings down there with people that aren't just interested in doing much of anything, and that's not acceptable. We need to stop that. Department of Planning and Development is looking at that. It may look punitive. People may say this isn't the way to do this, but having a legacy building and throwing your hands up and not doing anything is not helping the city of Lowell. It's not helping our residents, and therefore, we're there with the right hand of friendship to say we're here to help you. But at the same side, we're not going to allow what's been happening over the years to be the same thing. You need to be actively pushing your business, making sure that the downtown is looking good. As somebody that's been in the business of investment property for the better part of 2 decades, maybe a little over 2 decades, when your building is not bringing money in, I don't know what you're doing, and it's not helpful. It's not useful.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Manager. You mentioned Central Street and the Sahel restaurant, the African restaurant there. That's the only restaurant north of Boston. Mm-hmm. And that bridge, yeah, thank you. I've been there many times. And that bridge has really slowed down business because it makes the street only one way. So it slows traffic. So it will really increase not only business for Sahel, but business along that street. Right. So I think we would be wrapping down again. If you are tuning, you are watching African Hour, and this is coming to you from Lowell Telemedia. And my special guest tonight is Mr. Tom Golden, Lowell City Manager. Mr. Manager, it's been a wonderful opportunity to have you on African Hour. Could you, please, can you say something to the African community here in Lowell who are so vibrant? And very vibrant. So, I mean, if you can look at the camera and address my fellow Africans who are members of this community. They are not only beneficiaries, but they are also benefactors in sphere of economic, social, and cultural.
Well, to the African community, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for choosing Lowell as your home. I love it. I love the fact that I get an opportunity to go to the festival. I've had a great time myself, but my door is open. If there's something that you think that you've learned throughout your lifetime in different countries or different cities or towns that you've been in that you think you could bring to Lowell, my door is open. I want to make sure that you feel as comfortable as my friend Fru did walking in that time and scheduling an appointment. I think we sat down for 20 minutes and started talking about how we can make the city better, not just for Lowellians that have been here, and I know there's always that new and old thing. I don't look at it that way. You're calling Lowell your home. I want to make sure you feel comfortable. So to the African community, please call me on it. Stop by, say hello, send me an email, set up a meeting where we can meet. Maybe we'll meet down at Sahal. I've been, like I said. But thank you all very much for choosing Lowell as your home, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are winding down on the program. I would like to thank the wonderful staff of LTC, beginning with Dan, the Executive Director, Steve Manick, and Chris, who's been the Director, Anchorman manning the engine. So, Chris, thank you very much. And the African Hour could not have been successful without your help.